Welcome to the 8 Billion Project, where we're on a mission to make an impact by discovering and sharing the purpose of every person on this planet. I'm your host, Lisa Florida. Enjoy today's episode. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the 8 Billion Podcast. I am your host, Lisa Florida, and today I am very excited to have a special guest. I have John Slaten of Slaten Construction. John is the president of Slaten Construction, Railroad and Residential. After being a general contractor for over 20 years, he decided to start Slaten Construction. And in just 5 short years, he's expanded from general contracting to residential and into railroad. His main office is in Chicago, and he has another office in Reno, and soon to expand in Northern and Southern California. On top of that, he is licensed in 13 states with the completion of the NASCLA. Above all, John has a vision to do construction all around the world and impact many lives in doing so. Welcome, John Slaten, to the 8 Billion Podcast. I am super excited and completely honored to have you on the 8 Billion Podcast. How are you doing today?
Doing well. Thank you for having me. Pleasure.
Now, I just want to let the audience know I released a podcast. The reason that I have met John Slaten was I released a podcast with Alec Eckert. And Alec Eckert is a good friend of John Slaten and made the introduction based upon, not only John's success in business, but who John is as a human being. What I did this last week was I had a chance to do a little small meeting with him through Zoom just to kind of understand the story. And I was completely touched by his story that I immediately needed to know that I had to have him on the 8 Billion to share his story with you. So, John, I am going to have you take it away. And actually what I'd like to do is kind of start with where you started telling your story with me of how you grew up as a kid.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you having me on. At a very early age, I had my mom and her husband. They didn't get along too well, so it wasn't a great situation for me. 14, I ended up leaving the house, got kicked out, and found a friend to stay with for about a week or two and was able to get an apartment. Very proud that I finished school, never missed a beat, finished when I was 17. The high school worked with me and allowed me out of school early so I could work. And very early, I got into remodeling, and they were building a bridge by my house. So I kept going there early in the morning before school and opening the gate for the foreman. And finally, he got tired of me asking if I could be hired and gave me a shot. A very dear friend of mine to this day. I tell him all the time that I owe him, he helped me. I feel like he came into my life to, make the difference of somebody having $10 or back then $400, which, was a lot of money. When you're paying rent at a young age, and quickly moved up the ladder in construction and, graduated at 17. I was able to go into full-blown being a laborer, and they quickly made me a foreman with my working ethic. I do work very hard and learned as much as I could, got with, the older anybody that was kind of older and like a carpenter. I would try to work with them so I could do all the heavy lifting and try to absorb everything I could. And about 6 years of doing that, being able to pay my bills in a week and a half, for the whole month. And I was, it was a whole new world for me with my responsibilities at, being so young. So I went around anywhere they sent me. I went sometimes 3 hours away because they were from Belvedere. I would drive to Wisconsin, work 8 hours, and drive all the way back to St. Charles, Illinois. And I was grateful to do so. And they decided to close about 6 years in of my employment with them. And in the bridge world, they were releasing a lot of money, and certain companies had ends, and it was a big struggle for other companies that were in that kind of work. So I got with a general contractor locally, like 5 minutes from my apartment, and they gave me a shot instantly that morning that I went in there. I saw it by chance, never went down this road, and there was an accident. So I got detoured, and I happened to see, I believe I was there for a reason, and saw the sign and went in there and introduced myself. And they asked me to start that morning. And I was fast forward with them 25 years. And I went from carpenter to carpenter foreman, project manager, and worked my way up to vice president. They were a great company, great ethics, good core values. They were in business since 1924. And about 2008, like everybody else, they struggled very dearly. And me and the third generation, the dads, we went into no wages to help float the company. We were making maybe a couple $100 a week, working about 100 hours a week. And I would estimate at night, if we did get the job, I would self-perform instead of just being a typical general, so they could keep that money and they could keep, continue to get through the storm. Did that for almost 2 years. They offered me 25% of the company, and the other 3 boys were coming in, which were fourth generation, that at that time I had been working with for several years, and maybe, training them in different things, knowing they were going to be the fourth generation. So we did that. About 2010, the 3 boys were going to have 25% of the company, as well as myself. And about another 4 or 5 months went by, and I came in one morning, started loading up some trucks and stuff like that, getting the guys going. And the owner came out and said, we're going to close, John. And he had tears in his eyes. He said, I'm really sorry. You help us wave the storm. I got a lot of work. I'm no special than anybody else, but I do work very hard. I'm very honest. And the customer base that I have grown throughout the years is extremely large because of my ethics. And I was in awe. So I didn't know what to say, and gave them a hug, thanked them for all the work. And I had a company car, handed them the keys, and I walked home. It was about a 3.5-hour walk. And I just didn't know what was going to happen with, what the future was going to hold. I had a plan, and it, derailed. So I made a few phone calls on my way home, walking home, and had 3 job offers before I got home. I took one of them, and within a month or so, I could see how dishonest they were. And I just, one thing I could say about the company I was working with, I have no ill will. They gave me a great job. I raised my children, taught me things that I needed to learn in my career. I ran very big work. I knew how to do small work for the right price, made many friends, many relationships. So about a month in, I landed a very large project, and the owners were so grateful the amount of work I put in to get them to their budget. They had a very strict budget, and it was very difficult to get them there. So it took, quite some time to figure out how to value engineer and get them to where they needed to be, meet with all the contractors 20 times to get them to the price where they, how we can figure this out as a team. And we were successful. And my theory was always the subcontractors, the owners, they're the same. We all have to be a team. Nobody, we're not enemies. We're a lot of generals. The subs don't like the general, or the owner's not happy with this. And that's what we call the Slaten difference is, our homeowner or our building owner, or if we're doing a development, we want to act like we're writing the check. And if we're the sub, we want to we want to be able to say he made money, he did good, he made he was very fair, he did a good job, and he should be paid for that. So we were able to gather a lot of success like that. And within a month or so, I can hear the owner of the company on the other side of the wall calling all the subs saying that we lost the project, that we have to give them 50 grand from each sub before they'll let us have the project. So when he was done talking, I came in and talked with him and said, what happened? I mean, I got them exactly where they needed to be. I spent a month of my own time in the evenings, so I could work on the other 10 jobs you have me on. And I just don't understand what happened and why they wouldn't call me. And he goes, oh no, I just taught you how to make an extra 350 grand. It's, I never talked to the homeowners. And I just felt like I had been hit by a truck. I was, go from the company that to me was my family, lose that. My father was going through very difficult medical problems. And then, my career has always meant something to me, whether I was jackhammering or digging or running a college, building a college. And so it was, I just couldn't take it, and I couldn't let that sit. It didn't sit well with me. So I came home, and my wife could see instantly on my face. And so I told her what happened, and not even, I'll say 48 hours later, she licensed, went in, got me licensed under Slaten Construction. And she said, we're going to do this. You're the one that gets the work. You're the one that has the relationship. People are going to see who you are. And a lot of people already know who you are. And I've always been like any entrepreneur is, I wasn't thinking like an entrepreneur. I was thinking like, I need to make this much so my son can go to college. I have to do this so my daughter can play lacrosse. I have to do this so we can pay the mortgage. And so it was very terrifying for me. I was just used to working. The amount of work that I did didn't matter to me if I worked 7 days a week. So I went down to a few customers. And after I got to the fourth one, and they all said the same thing, was that, John, we've always hired you. We never hired this company or that company or the new one that you're at. We hired you because of who you are. You just tell us what you want the check to say, and that's what we'll do. So I went for it. And my first job was $8,000 from a client I've been working with since 2004. And within 3 months, I had a $300,000 job. It was just me working, and I wanted to build up cash so I could hire people. And my wife and I were talking about things. Things were going really good. I was working day and night. Some of the stuff I would do myself so I could use that money to build our pool. We started with $5,000. So we didn't take a loan for $300,000, $400,000 or $1 million to hire the amount of people we really needed. We started and we took the profits from jobs and slowly built that up. About 7 months of doing a lot of work by myself and with the support of my wife. We were sitting there on a Saturday morning, and I drew a big circle on a piece of paper, and almost like a moon. And I told my wife that this is Slaten Construction, and I'm going to only hire the heart of the company. Their core values are going to be like me, and I'm going to resonate with them. And then from there, I'm going to build. And I started drawing a sun and say, this was going to be residential. This is going to be Reno, Nevada. This is going to be this company. This is going to be that company. So Slaten is the mother company that can do $1 worth of work or $100 million job. And then these different divisions are going to help our people. So what that means is what happened to me will never happen to them. So if they give they're our family, we make them our family, they resonate with us, then we know they're good people. And then when things go bad, at least money's coming in from here and from there. So then we put this to the test 4 years later when COVID hit, and commercial was doing a hotel and shoring up a 5-story building. Residential was shut down for 7 months, maybe almost 7 months. They couldn't go into anybody's home. They couldn't work. I had 15 people, and every single one of them made a paycheck like they never missed 1 second of work. And I have a railroad division that travels all over the nation, doing telecommunication towers and telecommunication. That ramped up because the railroad got a lot more funding because medicine was coming here because of COVID. So we took that opportunity to be able to help the residential people. So we doubled up the revenue, the amount of revenue that came in, hired 4 more people, took those jobs, and then took that money and paid them. The commercial guys, we had 2, they were big projects going, but there was 3 guys that didn't have much to do. So we had them go work over here. And this one that couldn't work because he got COVID and he was off, nobody missed a paycheck out of 44 people. And, to be being able to do that from week to week, every single week, when now you're using all your capital to pay all the people, you're depending on that check to come in, do that work, do it well, get paid for it, spread the money out. And, it wasn't an easy thing, but that's what we did as a team. And, we couldn't be more blessed. I mean, a lot of people have a lot to say of what's going on today, and it's not great. But if you look at what you get through together and what you do as a team, and you actually sit back and go, wow, how 44 people got paid and only 8 are working. And, and at any given time, or 11's working in this division, but this whole division shut down, so that's what we wanted to create. I remember our very first large job. I remember the owner calling and saying, man, I have to tell you about this guy, Pete, you sent over here. This guy's amazing. John, it was like I was sitting there talking to you. I've been doing business with you in some shape or form for 15 years. And here this guy, and he's only been with you for 3 months. He's making decisions to save our costs, to make things safe. He's like, it was like having John Slaten in the room. And I remember going, again, I always stress, John Slaten is no better than anybody else, but what we do and what we build and how we feel about it, what our ethics are is. And to us, that's the Slaten difference. And so, yeah, that's how we got to here.
Well, the reason, John, I absolutely had to share your story is you are a different breed of leadership and executive, right? Because, I just want to let the audience, of course, I've had offline conversations with John prior to doing this podcast, and I've heard his story. And the first time that I heard it, I cried. And in fact, I don't know if you're watching this or listening to it on audio when John told it again, because I'm thinking at 14 years old, my son is 17. But to think that if 3 years ago, my son had to already leave the nest from me and had to go provide for himself, I was just like, wow, the emotional wherewithal that it takes. And then still trying to get through high school, leaving high school or early so then you could work. It was like the responsibilities that were put on your shoulder were like so different than the responsibilities on most teenagers' plates. And that's what I was going to say. Like, I truly commend your work ethics. And I know, I mean, for other reasons, which we'll delve into later on in the podcast, I know you are a new breed of leadership because you see things from so many different ways other than what most people will see things. Like, for example, you started Slaten Construction 6 years ago. I mean, there's been huge construction companies that are built over hundreds and hundreds of years, and it's just passed down. It's corporate. But for you to take that risk even just 6 years ago, and just to start with just 5,000, I just want to let the audience know these are the reasons I bring guests like John Slaten on, because I want you guys to know that if you do, if you've been working that 9 to 5, and then there's some, you're only looking to just make ends meet, but you do have a bigger vision. John is proof that it can happen, and it can happen even in the more recent years when he has huge competition out there. Right, John? I'm all like, yeah. I mean, when you decided to open, I know it was your wife that actually said, after that last job that you had, she's like, I'm going to start you off. I mean, Linda's an amazing human being to say, I'm going to start this off, because maybe she didn't think that you would do it. Like, you'd be too skeptical or
Sure.
asking so many questions, right?
Yeah, I have to give her all the credit for sure, because in my mind, I knew, okay, I won't be getting a check, maybe I won't get paid for 6 months. Maybe I won't,
Yeah.
But, she said, well, it's done. This is it. Here's how it is. Here's your license number here, and then in 48 hours, she had it all done, it's, so I do give her all the credit. She's, I mean, she gives me the, the motivation. She gives me the, courage, and she's definitely my soulmate. And, that helps a lot, but like you said to the audience is, when you're looking at starting and looking to, a lot of times my wife has to stop me and say, there's so much I want to do. There's, I have a big picture. And I'm like, man, I need to do that quicker, because I want to help this person, and I want to pay for their business to start. And I know they can do it. I see how their work ethic is, and I just can't afford to do this part yet. So I can only do this. And, there's so much you want to do, and there's so much good that I know I can do in this world. And, it takes money to do it. It takes a lot of things. And my wife has to stop and say, you started with one person. You're in how many states,
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to, I have to slow down and be grateful and say, okay, I know I want to do this for them, and I'm going to do it. And this is how I'm going to do it, and then head that direction.
Yeah. No, it's amazing though, because that's another thing though, too, in the time frame that I've gotten to know you, John. I've noticed you were so much, like I said, and I never even thought I would dub you like this, but you are a new breed of leadership, because that's what we're coming upon in the near future, is a new breed of leadership. Because you're so much more, I know everyone is calculating on the bottom line and all this kind of stuff. And I know that is always at the top of your list for you, because you always want to provide. But for you, what I really noticed, what was so unique and different about you, was it was just so much more about being able to provide for others and being genuinely happy, for other people's happiness.
Yeah.
Right. You definitely put other people first in the forefront before anything else. And that has made the whole difference in the way that you've operated. That's like the Slaten, that's the Slaten difference.
Slaten difference. Yeah. Thank you for saying that's a huge compliment.
Yeah. No, it does make the whole difference. And that's why your stories that I absolutely want to share. Now, when you and Linda absolutely make a great team, and, I'd like to delve more into that story. You did say that she's a soulmate. Well, everyone uses the term like, oh, that's my soulmate. But would you go into, John, you have an amazing story, and we've only scratched the surface of it. But I do want to, I want to ask you a little bit more about your relationship with Linda, because behind every successful man or woman, there's always that, there's always that backbone counterpart. Yeah. And I've had the chance to meet both of you, so I thought it was absolutely amazing, and I wanted to share that part of the story too.
Sure, yeah, I'm always willing to talk about her. That's no problem. So a little bit of back history here. So I kind of in a very, very bad place in my life. Lost my, to me, I always say I lost my family, my career. Those guys, they were my family. I would have done anything for them. The way I describe it is if someone would have came into the office, I would have stood in front of, started shooting, I would stand in front of them. And that's just the truth. So that was very hard for me to come off of. And so going with that, then I met my Linda at the gym. And I was like a zombie. As I mentioned previously, my dad was going through some medical difficulties, and I lost him. It was like a 9-month battle in ICU, and they would move him from place to place. I was working 100 hours a week. I was at my dad, whatever hours were left. 1 a.m. to 3 a.m. Then I would go work, and then I'd come back, whatever hours I had available, probably sleeping an hour and a half. If I was lucky, sometimes I would sleep on the shoulder or in the hospital parking lot. He was everything to me. And when I lost him, I just kind of went through life. And I didn't have any vision. I couldn't feel anymore. And I've always had a really big heart, and I lost that. And I went through life like a zombie. I worked very hard. I saw somebody pulled over on the road, I would stop and I would help them. I was still out exterior, the same John Slaten. But when I got by myself, I wasn't. I was going through life with my eyes closed. And I always had a purpose, and I had nothing left. And, my kids were getting older, and, they need you when they need you. And, and I just didn't, I didn't want to be around. I love my life. I love this world. I love nature. I love people. I didn't change that way. I love God. I didn't blame anybody. I just wanted to be with him. And then I still went to the gym every morning, 4 o'clock in the morning. And about 5 o'clock, I would see this trainer, and my wife caught my eye because all the trainers there, to me, they take advantage of people. And I would go and say, hey, I heard you say that guy had a bad back and you're telling him to do, I'm not trying to be, I would take them by themselves and that guy's 70 years old. You're going to tear his back up like that. You should know better. And, these guys are paying $75. I've never seen a trainer actually do their job and at my gym. And I see this lady training people unbelievably, that's how it should be. And that's what caught my eye. And I kickboxed for many years. I still box a lot. And about 3 weeks go by and I see this lady punching a bag like a man, and good form, good technique. And I never, to me, guys should, leave girls alone. They're not there. It's not a club. So I never I have a lot of friends, but I never looked for a girl or anything like that. And so I went up and I was training somebody that asked me for help. And again, he wanted to learn how to box and stuff. So we would meet on the weekends and I would do focus mitts with him and stuff. And I happened to see Linda boxing the bag there. And I introduced myself. I said, I see you here all the time. Matter of fact, you're the best trainer I've ever seen in all the years I've been coming here. I wanted to know if you wanted to go down in the gym with us and box. And she said, yeah, I'd love that. And we hit it off. We did that. I told the gentleman I was with that you're out, she's in. And he's a dear friend of ours that we still talk to. And so I asked her if she'd like to grab lunch sometime. And she said, well, how about we ride bikes? How's that sound? I go, sure. So we went on a 4-hour bike ride and we got back and I was riding behind her and I mentioned that I was going through life not being myself. And I remember exactly where we were by this curb on the right side in Batavia. And I could tell you the exact location. And I remember going, oh my gosh, I feel like myself. And I instantly felt like a boy again. And I tell her all the time. And I could not stop talking. And I remember going, she knows, the only person that knows all these things is my pop. And I was actually behind her on the bicycle, like covering my mouth. Like, what am I doing? Like, she doesn't need my life story. I mean, this is our first date. What am I doing? It's unbelievable. And we just connected like no one's business. And I remember waking up and and I wanted to be there. And it was the first time since my pop passed. And I'll never forget waking up and smiling. And I could see my dad's face in my head. And I was like, man, I don't know if he brought her to me and I said, but, again, how do I snowball this? And, how do you say those kind of feelings to somebody you just met? And it's just, so I asked her if she'd like to go out again. And she did, of course. And we just talked. And I mean, it was just a year later, we bought a home together. I mean, I just found my other half. And, I always tell her that she saved my life, and she did. Business and all that other kind of stuff. I always thought, I always knew money was never very important to me. It's important to me to do the things that I want to do. I have so many people I want to help, and I provide a service to people that need work. And I feel like I help them a lot. I'm doing a hotel in Ohio right now, and, it's a $20 million job, and we were able to do it for $16 million. And I know when you're talking those numbers and stuff like that, it's like, well, yeah, I saved them $4 million. That's huge. I mean, any corporation, they need that for the next thing they're doing or the next land they have to buy. And hopefully they'll pick me and I can do 10 more with them. And, we, as a general contractor, your portion of that is, you're lucky if it's in $1 million. It's, and you're spending $800,000 to run it correctly, so the order for me to be able to be successful for the whole team, for, the clients, for the people we want to help, is to have a fair rate. You have to do a lot of work, and to do it well, you want to set up a team properly. So when we opened up in like Nevada, my wife is, within 6 months, she was like, we were watching TV and the screensaver came on and she's like, oh my gosh, and started welling up. And I go, what's the matter? What happened? And she's like, see that picture is Lake Tahoe. I've never been there, but I feel like I've been there before. I feel like I resonate with it. I don't know why. Just I've seen pictures of it as a little girl, and I feel so emotional about it. So I go, well, man, you should have said something. Let's, I'll take you there. And so we planned a small trip there for like 4 days, and she just got on top of a mountain and like she knew she had been there before and she couldn't explain it. And all I know is I love this woman and that's what she deserves. And how do you do something like that? I mean, you're just starting in business, so we, by the grace of God, we go to Reno, which is only 30 minutes, like from my office to downtown Chicago. And we walk into the place. My wife says, let's go to the village hall. Let's introduce ourselves. Well, it can't hurt. I said, okay, let's go. So we did. And the lady's like, oh my gosh, hi guys, how you doing? And we explained who we were. And she goes, did somebody tell you to come? I go, yeah, my wife. And she goes, no, I mean, did someone call you? I go, no. She goes, everybody you need to speak to is behind that door. And that only happens twice a year. And you're here at the exact time. If you don't mind sitting down, I'll peek my head in there. They may say no, but they may say yes. And my wife looks at me and she goes, oh, they'll say yes, because we're supposed to be here. And sure enough, she came out and she goes, Mr. and Mrs. Slaten, they were welcome to have you in there. We go in there and there's 12 people in there, mayor, the plan commissioner, all the way around the table. And they go, we understand you guys are from Chicago and you're interested in our state. And we'd love to have you. We'd love to hear your story. So we told our story and, bits and pieces, not so in depth of what you and I are speaking of, but, and some of them were welling up and they were like, whatever we can do to help you to make it happen. We will tell you it's extremely vigorous to get licensed, but we will allow you to take your test in Chicago. That's how we feel about you. I go, wow, thank you so much. And, we started traveling there every couple of weeks to meet subs, to meet people, got licensed, and within 11 days had a contract. And fast forward, I have an office there. I've, meet great people like yourself, Lisa, that I resonate with, hire them. Our lead PM out there, she worked where we bought property, met her through that. She had been being taken advantage of for quite some time and just called yesterday to say how grateful she is for, she goes, I have so much stuff going on in the family and you're always check on it. You let me leave. You don't, make me take PTO because I have to go to a funeral. She goes, I just never been treated like that. And I said, well, it's your company too. And we're doing this together. So we build a family here and we build a family there and we build a family there. Then we know the customers are going to be treated like family and we'll be able to do our vision, which is work nationwide and help a lot of good people.
And no, there's, that's an amazing story. And letting the audience know there's parts of it. If you're on audio, if you're on video, then you could see my facial expression, but there's parts of John's story that I didn't actually hear until he said it today in the podcast. And now it kind of fills in some of the gaps. But I was, if you're watching, I was crying earlier, and I completely resonate with John because, of course, I lost my mother in 2018. And I know many people that know this, and I've said it before in the podcast. So those are some of the podcasts where I literally just start crying. But like I said, the reason that I wanted to, what I wanted to John to talk about Linda was because when you say soulmates, everyone says, yes, I have a soulmate. But Linda is very special. And when he talked about the bike ride, and he was just saying, like, I'm telling her all these things, there is something very special about Linda. And this is where the story gets really good, you guys. So on top of John being this really successful president of Slaten Construction, it's their backstory that's really interesting, because Linda is very, very spiritual, and so is John. And that's why these stories really called to me, because a big portion of the way they operate has a lot to do with intuition, instinct. Like you walking into that office in Nevada, she said, yeah, they'll let us in. Like, and of all days, I didn't know this story, John, of all days, they're only there twice a year.
And then, a very important part of Linda is, I can't say enough about her, but her heart and what she feels about people and how she wants to help people. And, money's low on, like for what makes you happy. It's, I know you need it. And I don't, I think money could be a very good thing for people. I think I recommend it. I think, I'm working hard myself to acquire it and doing the right things with it. I think, and that's what I just, she loves people. And when she saw my sadness, with my pop, and she saw, like, the minute I would leave her, it, like, I wanted to get back.
Mm-hmm.
My body needed to get back to her.
Mm-hmm.
My brain, my soul. How I could describe it is, as I would pull away from her and drive to where I lived, I could feel myself filling up. And then when I got to her, I was light again, and I could talk, and I could feel, and I could, I always tell her, you make me feel like a boy. I lost my boyhood. I had to be a man. And I told her at our wedding, just me and her got married on land. We honored the land. We were grateful. We feel like there was many angels around us. And I told her, my whole life I had to be a man. And now I am a man, and I feel like a boy. And you gave that to me. And that's better than anything else, What she did for me after a couple months is she said, now I know you don't like to talk about, and it hurts, and I know the pain. And she was crying, and she goes, I feel the pain too, because I see your love for him. She says, if you'll just hear me out, I have somebody, and you could speak with them. And I know you're spiritual and stuff like that, but all I'm telling you is, if you would do it for me, I'm asking you to go for 1 hour and see my friend Beverly. And I see her all the time. She has different gifts, and I feel like it will help you. And I know it will, and it'll change how you feel. And I go, well, I don't. She goes, no, I'm asking you if you'll do it for me. I'm asking if you'll take the drive, which is not that far, and you'll spend 1 hour of your week by doing this for me. So of course I couldn't say no, and I did go. And she explained to me that she was going to be able to connect me with my pop. And I wasn't sure how I felt about that, because I don't think I could take any more hurt. And I didn't understand why when you have genuine love like that. And I couldn't imagine somebody losing a child, or that's how I felt. And so I was driving and so many things running through my head, and I get to Beverly's house where she works out of. And I was early because I'm always early. And I sat in the car and I cried. And I started talking to my pop, and I said, please don't let this not be real. Please help me know you're okay. And, you know, I'm very confident you brought Linda to me, and, you know, I think I'll be okay, but I need this to be real. I can't take any, you know, I don't know much about this and stuff. And I don't mean to, I'm not being negative, and I'm having a conversation with my dad. And I said, I need you to say this, and this, so I know it's you. Like, my dad called me Pumpkin, even as a man. Hi, Pumpkin. I love you, Pumpkin. We'd hang up. God bless, Pumpkin. And my pop and I, all through my life, we talked 3 times a day. And so I said, you know, if you said Pumpkin or something like that no one knows, say this, or something like that. Or I'm not trying to give rules. I can't take any more hurt on this. So this beautiful lady, she is so amazing. You can see her heart beaming through her chest. You see this light around her, like you do with you, Lisa, like you do with my wife. And I instantly felt so calm. I hugged her. She goes, oh, Linda has told me so much about her. And she instantly goes, you are such a good person, John. And she started, she goes, I before you sit down, I have to say something to you. I have a guy that's been here since, and now she doesn't know anything. I just called and made an appointment. Mm-hmm. She goes, there's been a guy here keeping me up since 11 o'clock at night, saying my bullheaded son is finally coming. Call me bullheaded kraut, because my dad was German. And as soon as she said bullheaded, I knew that was my pop, because he always called me bullheaded kraut. And she said, he has been I've had to, you know, she's been doing it for 30, 40 years. So for her to turn it on and turn it off, she knows how to do it. She goes, I had to turn them off. As soon as I open my eyes, there he is. As soon as I do that, there he is. And his name is John. And I just started crying, because that's my dad's name. And she goes, but before you get into tears and all that, he said, since you're so bullheaded, Pumpkin. And she said, Pumpkin, and this, what I said. And he wants, you know, my dad had polio in his leg. And she said, he wants you to know his leg, he's running. His legs are good. I spent 30 minutes. I just I couldn't compose myself. You have something, this beautiful woman giving this gift to these people. And I know what it did for me. And I go to her every month for business, for doing things with certain people, trying to help people, people that want to get connected. I probably, you know, if you go and you know, because in my head, I was like, oh God, I'm crying on the way there. Is this, I can't take this. Is this, you know, so what if someone else feels like that? So I say, do it for me and I'll pay for it. And now what do you have? You're going to lose 1 hour. So now what's your excuse? You know, so I've helped, not me, I've gotten people there, and she has helped so many people. And you see somebody like that could be a billionaire and charges just so much per hour, just going through her life for 40 years of helping people, so selfless. Those are the people that, I have big plans for her. I have plans for her to spend her life the way she wants to spend that, however that may look. Mm-hmm. She's in my affirmations, how I want, but you have to do business to take money, you have to make money to do that. But my wife is who connected me, knowing what it would do for me. And I walked out of there, all the pain was gone. No more cry of sadness. No more, for 7 years, I woke up and cried. So did I woke up. And I go to sleep. That's what I thought of, And then when I met my wife, that neutralized things for me. Mm-hmm. It made me human again. And then she saw what that could do for me, and she made that connection. And now I talk to my pop all the time. My pop has a contract for our company that he's the chief, and I work for him. And, we're doing it together, and she made that possible for me.
No, this is why I was just going to say these are the stories. And for whatever reason, when I started this podcast, it has completely evolved, the mission. It's so clear to me now. But what's really interesting, John, is left and right, I'm like miracles drop in front of me, like you. I just want to let the audience know this, because when I was introduced to John, I'm thinking, great, like he's got an inspiring story. He's president of construction and all this kind of stuff. Well, in the middle of the conversation that I'm having with John in our Zoom meeting, this is, trying to get to learn more of his story. He talks about Linda's situation, Linda seeing Lake Tahoe. And she said something like, I have been there in a past life. And I said, hold on, John. I said,
5 minutes in.
Yeah. I said, can I ask you? I said, I don't want to interrupt your story, but can I ask you a question? Are you and your wife spiritual? And he goes, oh, Lisa, you will not understand how deeply spiritual we are. And I'm telling you, the audience, what I've been blessed with, even on the spiritual journey, is being so connected to source and everything around me, that I'll meet people like John, that's introduced by Alec, or it's like we're all interconnected. It makes so much sense.
Yeah.
When you open yourself up to the universe like that. And that's what this podcast is about. Like I'm saying, you can have very successful executives completely connected to the universe. And, in Think and Grow Rich, they talk about that. There's a chapter, but a lot of people don't understand that. They say it's like intuition. And a lot of the biggest leaders and successful, businessmen, in history have always had a deep connection to their intuition. And so John is a perfect example of that. And I was just like, wow. I mean, my podcast only lasts for about an hour, and I think I'm reaching it, John. But I was telling John, because he's such an amazing soul, him and Linda, and she's very healing, because when I got to meet Linda over Zoom, I was just bawling my eyes out.
Yeah.
That's why I knew there is a new breed of leadership that's coming up. I'm telling you that as an audience, as we've, as we're navigating through this new earth after COVID, so many things are changing. There's a new breed of leadership that's coming up, and they're coming up in all sectors of the world. And they're different people. They're people who genuinely care about others. That becomes first and foremost. Mm-hmm. They care about the happiness and, of how these families are. It's not about the bottom line, because you and I both know, John, when it needs to get, don't ask how, but right. When something needs to get paid, somehow there's money that comes in, right?
It happens.
It's a big part of having faith. And this is just John's icing on the cake. And I wish I could go longer, but, and I did tell this with John. As many of you guys know, I have started live streaming, and John is definitely someone that I would like to live stream shortly after his podcast is done. So if you're the audience, you made it this far and you'd like to hear more interesting stories about how John navigates through his life with Beverly, with spirit guides, with of course the beautiful soul of Linda. Please stay tuned as I'll make announcements, because I'd love to have him live where he can answer questions by you guys and just kind of, answer anything. But he has used Beverly as a consultant for 5 years as Slaten Construction has become a nine-figure earning, corporation. So John, this is what I'm going to do, because we are, like I said, I have every intention to share, to go live with you. So we'll have more people from the audience talk. But really quick, if you could give some advice to, let's say, 8 billion people, and you had just a minute or two and your 15 seconds of fame, what would, knowing everything in life this far, what would that small piece of advice or that gem be for them?
Yeah, sure. My advice is, when if it's business or life, whatever you're doing, switch roles with the person you're doing it with and see how that's received that way. If you're willing to do this and you're the one that's accepting it, do you think that's fair? Do you, when you're doing something, be fair, do it how you would want to receive it, and switch roles with the person. And if you're smiling, then you're doing it right, and put your priorities with the people and do it because you can only do so much by yourself. So do it with the people and grow together. That's
amazing. It's very much the golden rule, right? Treat others the way you would want to be treated.
Absolutely.
And it speaks volumes.
It's simple.
It is simple.
We make it hard, we all make it hard. We're humans, right?
Yeah, sometimes we do make it hard, or sometimes it's a hard concept to grasp with other people. But John, I know this isn't going to be the last time I'm on camera with you, because it's been my absolute pleasure and an honor for me, truly, from my spirit to yours, right? But John, really quick, if the audience, so if you guys are looking for a construction company, he is licensed in 13 states, including Illinois, including Reno, Nevada, in Nevada, and then shortly hereafter, it's going to be California. Mm-hmm. John, what would be the best way to learn more about you or get a hold of you?
You can go to slatenconstruction.com, and there you'll see there's a page there you can fill, or contact us, either one, and it goes directly to me because I respond within minutes. So you can get that, and then I will piggyback off that, and you'll have all my information, my phone number and email. So that'll go directly to me.
Amazing. Well, and he does. John is very good at work and answering emails and responding. You can always count on John. But John, thank you again from the bottom of my heart for being on this episode of 8 Billion. And like I said, you will always have this platform. If you ever have messaging, or if you'd like to say anything, you will always have this platform to always come back.
Thank you so much. You're a beautiful soul, and I thank you and your audience.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to this week's episode of 8 Billion with John Slaten. I hope you guys really enjoyed this. Again, for many of you guys, if you haven't, please like, share, and subscribe. You can find me on Apple and Spotify, and of course, on YouTube under Liza, Florida.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. If it's moved you in any way, please review and share your thoughts, or text me your thoughts at 949-247-2800.